Okay, so how could I find the area? So when you talked about area, each square was 1 times 1, which is 1 unit squared. So we're going to count up the ones that are almost full. So if I was to do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oops. I didn't figure you wanted to hear me count. Six, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. Now, we know it's not going to be total of 52 because, like part of this is missing, part of this is missing. So, part of this is missing, part of that's missing. So we know it's not actually going to be 52, but it's somewhere around 52. I would say somewhere between 50 and 52 units squared. But I don't know. Let's find out. It says find the exact area. The formula is pi r squared. Now, most of the time, I don't like to actually multiply out the pi. For this class pi, we're going to use the 3.14. Now, there is a pi button on some calculators, and it actually is the better one to use, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So a equals pi r squared. So I'm going to replace the r with 4, and I'm going to square it. So if I'm talking about an exact answer, I'm talking about units squared. But if I'm not talking about an exact answer for this, that I'm going to actually, because remember, pi is not an exact number. So if I was to take 16 and I multiplied it by 3.14, that's going to give me an approximate number of 50.24 units squared. Look at that, between 50 and 52. We did a pretty good job. Okay, a cylinder is a three-dimensional object with two parallel congruent cylinder bases. Okay, so think of a can of soda. You have your circle on top and your circle on bottom. They are parallel to each other. The radius is the distance from the center to the base. Okay, so if I have a circle, from here to here is my radius. Okay, if I'm talking the diameter, that's all the way across. The height, if I have a cylinder, is this part right here. So if I'm looking at this, my radius, so the radius is halfway across the top. So this part right here is the radius, so 9 millimeters. Diameter would be all the way across. So this side right here is also 9 millimeters. So that gives me a total of 18 millimeters. The height is how tall it is, so 11 millimeters. Over here, well, let's see. This goes all the way across, so that's my diameter. My radius is half of that, so 3 centimeters. Then the height, that's the distance between the two bases, which would be 4 centimeters. Okay. Now, let's look at this. So we know the bottom here, right here, that's a circle. This is a circle on top. So we know that this has a bunch of circles on top of each other. So in order to find the volume of a cylinder, to know how much would fill in here, I have to find the area of my base, which is pi r squared, and then I need to know how many or how high that's going to get. So I'm going to take that times my height. So pi r squared, oops, I forgot the squared h. Now, could I write 3.14 r squared h? Yes. This one right here is going to get what is called the exact answer because we're not rounding, where this right here is rounding. So we're going to find the volume. So we have pi, my r is equal to 4 centimeters, my h is equal to 6 centimeters. So my r is 4 squared and my height is 6. So I'm going to put the pi at the end just because that's where it should go. So if I'm going to take 16 and I'm going to multiply it by 6, I'm going to get 96 pi. So my exact answer is 96 pi centimeters cubed. Now if I'm going to approximate that, I'm going to take 96 and multiply it by the 3.14. I'm going to get 301.4, oh, it says round to the nearest tenth, 0.4 centimeters cubed. Okay, let's go to the next one. So we're finding the volume again. So it already tells us this is my r, so pi r squared, h is right here, so times 10. So I'm going to get 9 times 10 pi, so that's going to get me 90 pi. So 90 pi inches cubed. You've got to have your label on it. So 90 times 3.14 is going to get us 282.6 inches cubed. The next one. Now, this gives me my diameter. I don't want the diameter. I want half the diameter. So that's going to be 9 inches. So my volume on this is going to be pi. My r is 9 squared. My height is 12. So 81 times 12 pi. And that is going to give me 972 pi. So 972 pi inches cubed. Then I take 972 and I multiply it by 3.14 and I will get 3,052.1 inches cubed. It's really 0.08, but when we round to the nearest tenth, this number right here goes up 1. Okay, so over here, volume equals pi. My r is 3.5 squared times 9. So 3.5 squared is 12.25. Oops. Sorry about that. 9 pi. Multiplication symbol. There we go. When I multiply that, I get 110.25 pi. That, even though it says to round to the nearest tenth, this right here is an exact answer. So I'm actually going to leave it as the 0.25. Now if I approximate that, I'm going to take this and multiply it by 3.14 and I'm going to get 346 point. Okay, I'm actually going to write it out for a minute, okay, so that you can see this. If I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, I look at the number next door. That number next door is greater than 5, so I am going to round up, and then that is going to be meters cubed. Okay, so the next one says a soup can, right here, soup can is filled with soup at a rate of 13 cubic inches per second. How long will it take to fill this can of soup that's pictured below? So, well, first thing we'd have to do is find the volume. So volume equals, okay, so this is my diameter. So my radius is half of that. So that's 5.5 inches. So pi times 5.5 squared times 8.4. And I'm going to just do this a little bit just so that it's easier to see. So 5.5 squared is going to be 30.25 times 8.4 pi. And that will get us 254.1 pi inches cubed. Now, I don't want to do anything with that pi quite yet. Okay? Why? Because I don't like to round anything until I absolutely have to. If it fills at 13 cubic inches per second, okay, per second, how can you find how many seconds it takes? So it is inches tall, right? And then we divide it by speed. So we divide it by inches, cubic inches per second. So we're going to take the volume and we're going to divide it by the speed in which it fills. I don't know why I was writing 3. 254.1, and I'm going to multiply 3.14 all over 13. So I'm going to multiply the 2 on top and divide by 13, and I'm going to come up with 61 seconds. Okay. Now this next one, it wants to know mom's coffee and dad's coffee. Dad's coffee, mom's coffee. So volume equals pi. Now, this is my diameter, so my radius on this is 3 inches. So 3 squared times the height, which is 6. So this is going to be 9 times 6 pi. So this is 54 pi inches cubed. So then we're going to talk about mom. Well, this is the diameter on hers. So the radius is 2. So the volume on hers is pi 2 squared times 4. So that's going to get me 4 times 4 pi, which is 16 pi inches cubed. Now, it's wanting to know how much more. So that means we're going to put dad's over mom's and divide. So 54 pi over 16 pi. Well, the reason I didn't get rid of the pi's is because, look, these 2 pi's cancel out. And 54 divided by 16 is 3.375 times bigger. Okay. Now, the Director of Marketing Department at the Rice is Nice Company sent a memo to her product development team to request that the volume of the new cylinder prototype equal this amount. 2 designs were created. Which one meets her requirements? So we have to decide. So we're going to do number 1 over here. I guess I could do different colors. Volume equals pi 8 squared times 3. So the volume on this is going to be, I just really did that, 64 times 3 pi. Volume here will get 192 pi. And if I multiply that out with the 192 times 3.14, I will come up with, it is approximately 602.88 centimeters cubed. Now some of you are going to stop right there and say, oh, I don't have to do anymore. Better be careful. Let's make sure on number 2. Okay, so let's look over here at number 2. So volume equals pi. We have 4 squared times 12. This will get me 16 times 12 pi, which is 192 pi. Oh, look at that. Guys, look at that. Isn't that the exact same thing? So you have to be very careful. Both of these actually come up to the same volume. It just looks different. They may have the same volume and just look differently.